When you start looking into home care for someone you love, it can feel completely overwhelming, right? It's this emotional journey full of so many questions, and you just want to make the absolute best choice. So let's dive in and try to find some clarity together. And these are the big questions, the ones that probably keep you up at night. Will they be safe? Can I actually trust a stranger in their home? How are we possibly going to make this work? Look, these are totally normal and valid questions. And in this explainer, we're going to walk through the answers step by step so you can feel confident and empowered. So we're going to break this whole thing down into a process that's actually clear and manageable. We'll start with what home care really is, then get into how you find a trusted partner, what truly makes a great caregiver, and finally, we'll look at how to get started. Okay, so first things first. Before we can even think about choosing the right care, we need to be on the same page about what we're talking about. So what exactly is in-home care? At its heart, home care is so much more than just a checklist of tasks. It's really about a mission, a person-centered mission. The whole point is to make life better for everyone involved, not just the person receiving care, but for the entire family. It's about bringing everyone some much-needed peace of mind.
So, what does that support actually look like day to day? Well, it covers the absolute essentials. You've got personal care for help with things like dressing and mobility. Then there's companionship for that vital social interaction. And then there's respite care, and this one is huge. It gives family caregivers that crucial chance to just breathe, to rest and recharge.
And the support doesn't stop there. We're also talking about the practical stuff that keeps a household running smoothly, right? Things like meal prep, medication reminders, light housekeeping. And for those times when you need more, there's always 24-hour care, which gives you that round-the-clock assurance that your loved one is never, ever alone.
Okay, so now we have a good handle on what home care is all about. The next giant step is picking the right agency. And let's be real, this isn't just hiring a service. This is about finding a partner, someone you can genuinely trust. So what should you be looking for?
All right, let's talk about the elephant in the room, shall we? The cost. For most families, this is the very first question, and it's a big one. It's a huge concern, and we need to tackle it head on.
Well, here's the thing you need to know. You're not necessarily in this alone financially. A lot of these services can actually be covered by programs like Medicaid. A good partner, a good agency, won't just talk about the care, they'll sit down with you and help you figure out all of your options.
So let's turn those worries into a kind of a practical checklist, something you can actually use. Are you worried about reliability? Then you need to ask them point blank, what's your backup plan if a caregiver calls in sick? Worried about it feeling generic? Then you need to make sure they're creating a truly tailored care plan, not some one-size-fits-all thing. And trust? That comes from a proven reputation built on dignity and respect.
We've covered services, we've covered agencies, but let's get down to what really matters, the absolute heart of all of this, the actual person who's going to be spending time with your loved one.
Wow, it feels like your caregiver is part of our family. I mean, that really says it all, doesn't it? That is the goal. It's not just about finding someone who's competent, it's about finding someone who makes a genuine connection, who becomes this trusted, wonderful presence in the home.
So how on earth does an agency find these amazing people? Well, it's not by accident. It's a really rigorous process. First, they have to be carefully screened. Then they get professionally trained. But that third step, consistently supported, that's the secret sauce. Great caregivers aren't just found and forgotten, they're supported and nurtured every step of the way.
And that leads us to a really fundamental truth about this whole industry. Great care comes from caregivers who feel valued. It's that simple. The way an agency treats its own staff is a direct preview of the kind of care your family is going to get. So, when you're checking out an agency, ask about their benefits. Do they offer competitive pay? What about health insurance or paid training? These aren't just little perks for the employees. No, they're the foundation for a stable, professional, and happy team. And that translates directly into your peace of mind.
All right, so you've got the info. You know what to look for in a partner. Now for the final piece of the puzzle, actually taking that first step. And I know that can sometimes feel like the hardest part of all.
A lot of times, the search for care doesn't start with a casual browse. It starts with a crisis, right? Maybe there's been a fall or a scary trip to the hospital, and suddenly you need help, like yesterday. So the question of how soon is a really critical one.
And here's the good news. It doesn't have to be this long, complicated nightmare. A really well-organized agency can get things moving fast. They can get a care plan in place and have someone starting sometimes in just a couple of days. When you boil it all down, this whole journey comes back to one simple, powerful promise: to provide care that feels like family, Finding the right home care, it's not really about logistics or schedules. It's about that human connection. So as you make your choice, think about this. Are you just hiring a service, or are you inviting someone new to be part of your family's story?